Hey guys, in this video I'm going to go through really quickly and show you how to use Blendshapes, and along the way we're also going to use a lattice deform. So the idea with a blend shape is that we're going to store different versions of our same mesh in different positions, and then we'll be able to play them back just by changing a couple of numbers. In this particular one, I'm going to use this model here, which is a fish model, which I created previously for you, and you can download from the website. Now, I encourage you to use your own model for this, but when you're using your own model and you're about to animate it, you can see this is the smoothed version of the model. This is the non-smoothed version of the model. And what we're going to want to do is take our non-smoothed version of the model, and we're going to want to smooth this mesh, kind of bake in the smoothing so that we can animate it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our mesh menu here, and we're going to say smooth. Okay, and now when we do that, we're going to go into this options menu here, and you'll see that we can choose the level of smoothing that we want. If you're using an older computer, you may prefer to use Maya, Catmull, Clark in here instead of Open Subdiv. I'm going to use Open Subdiv, but if you have a problem, if your mesh disappears or something, try using a different one. Okay, so I'm going to change these subdivision levels down to 2 here and hit apply, and what you'll see there is that your mesh has now been smoothed, but this is actually now our mesh. So if I go into vertex select, you can see I've got all these vertices in here. Now I want to make this fish have a swimming motion, swimming from side to side, and it would be really difficult for me to just kind of grab a bunch of these vertices and move them around so that they were kind of like not doing this when I moved them. What I want to do is I want to be able to kind of bend all of these vertices around. There's a couple of different ways you can do that. Sometimes it's enough to use the soft select tool. So the soft select tool allows you to basically notice how when I select a vertex here and I move that, it just moves that one vertex. Whereas if I come in here and double click on my select tool, I can come down here to soft selection, turn that on, and what will happen now is that when I select a vertex, you can see that it's got this kind of yellow map around them. If I change this fallout radius here on mine, it's set to 5. If I change it down to 1, you'll probably see this a little bit more easily. Okay, so what this is doing is it's saying now that the vertices that are sort of highlighted around here in pink and yellow, they're affected by, they're all affected by the movement of this one vertex. So if I move back in here into my select tool, you can see that as I move this out, it moves out all those vertices, not just that single one. So one way I could edit this would be I could like just modify a couple of vertices in smooth select mode, or in soft select mode. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come back up here into my selection tool, go back into soft selection and turn that off. What I want to do here is I'm going to use a different kind of deformer to deform my fish. So you'll see that there's something, I'm going to go back to object mode. There's something up here under the deform menu called a lattice deformer. These are all different deformers. They're all different ways you can deform a mesh. The one I'm going to use is this one called lattice. So pop that on and you'll see this box goes around your fish. This box has got subdivisions going down this way. I don't want them down this way. I want them to go this way because I want to deform my fish in its swimming motion. So these are called S, T, and U divisions. S goes this way, T, as you can see, goes this way, and U goes this way. So I can change this. I'm going to change this one back to 2, and S divisions I'm going to bump up to 5 there like this. Okay, so this is my fish with a lattice around it. Now at this point I've done a little bit of work, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go save scene as, and I'm just going to call this one fish lattice. Alright, so the reason I'm doing this is last time I made this video, the Maya crashed on me and I lost all my work. So as you're doing this, make sure you save as you go to prevent having to go back too far. Okay, so once we've got the lattice on here, we can right click and select lattice point, and you can see now I can select the points in the lattice. And what you'll notice is that if you select a point or more, 1 or 2 points in the lattice, and then use your normal move keys, you could distort your mesh around that, right? We can do all sorts of interesting things. Now what we want to do here, of course, is we want to make our fish swim. So we're going to want to move these ones out and cause our fish to kind of bend. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a top view, because this is the view that we want to look at it from. All right, so we're going to go into 5 mode here, so it's shaded. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these ones here and I'm going to move them up over here. These ones I'm going to move up here, and these I'll move up a bit, and this one I'll move up a bit too. Okay, so I might move these just up a little bit more. I might move this one back a little bit. Look, it doesn't really matter where you get these two. This one I'll just move back in this way a little bit. It's up to you where you move all this to. It's just aesthetic appeal. Okay, so that's where my fish is when its tail's all swung to one side. Okay, so this is what he's going to look like. You can see how the this lattice has made us editing the shape of this object much easier. Okay, so when you've got him bending to one side like that, select the mesh and press Ctrl D to duplicate and move the duplicated mesh over there. So what we've done is we've created a duplicate of this mesh, and this mesh is no longer affected by the lattice. This one here still is. So now what we want to do is go back to our top view, and we're going to want to reset this so that we're back in our default straight position as it was modeled. Now we could come back in here and try and modify the lattice by editing its different points to put it back to that space, but we don't need to. We can go back up to our deform menu here, and you'll see there's a lattice submenu. We can go in here and go reset lattice, and that will just take it back to its default position. Very, very handy. Okay, so the next thing we want is the fish's tail to be swishing to the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, we're going to go lattice point, and we're going to do the opposite of what we did before, right? We're going to move this tail all the way down here. This one's going to move out to here. This one's going to move down a little bit here. This one I might move in just a little bit there. And this one I might move back up just a little bit there. Just a little bit there. Okay, that's good enough. So what I'm going to do, same as before, click on here, Control D to duplicate, and I'm going to move this one down to here. Then I'm going to select this guy again, and I'm going to go back to my deform menu, down to lattice, and I'm going to go reset lattice. Okay, so now I've got 3 different fish, right? I've got my main one, which is just sitting there normally, and I've got my one with its tail to the left and one with the tail to the right. Before I go any further, I'm going to go File, Save Scene As. I'm going to call this one Fish Lattice 3, because there's 3 fish there. Continue. Okay, just in case I get a crash, I can just load this back up again. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to apply the blend shapes. Applying blend shapes is really easy. All you need is your main mesh, okay, and then a version of your mesh, exactly the same mesh distorted in a different way. How you've distorted it doesn't matter. You could use a lattice, you could use a wire, you could use a soft select, whatever you want to do. All we need is 2 versions of the same mesh. If we're using a totally different mesh, the blend shape won't work. We can only do it with the same mesh that's been distorted. Now that we've actually applied those distortions, we don't actually need this lattice anymore, so I'm going to delete that lattice. Alright, and then what I'm going to do to apply my blend shape, you'll see that the blend shape menu option is up here under deform blend shape. The way you get it to work is you click on one fish, the distorted version, then you shift click on the base version. So the base version is the one you want to apply the distortion to. Okay, so what we can do here is we go, right, we've clicked on this one, we've clicked on this one, and then we've clicked on, and we haven't got this one clicked at all. We've got our default one as green, and we go deform blend shape. Now once you do that, if you go up to your Windows menu and into the animation editors, you'll see there's this thing in here called Shape Editor. Pop that open and you'll see there's this one in here called PCube 5. Right, the way this works is pretty cool. When you move this slider here, you will blend your base shape to go towards the other shape that you've attached it to. So you'll notice that when that's at 0, it's in its base position. When it's at 1, it's in the deformed position. And when it's at 0.5, it's in between the two. So there's our fish kind of swimming, but only half of it's swimming. Alright, so let's create another blend shape. But before we do this, this is the fish's tail moving to the fish's right. So we're going to call this tail R for tail right. Okay, so let us do the same thing again, and this time what we're going to do is we're going to go this one, and then we're going to select this one, then this one, so that our main one is green, and then we're going to go deform blend shape, and you'll see our new blend shape will appear there. This is going to be tail underscore L. Okay, and you'll see that this one now does this. Now the cool thing here is that these blend shapes combine together. So if we turn this one all the way to 1, then you'll notice that when we put tail R over the top of this causes tail R to push back over the top of tail left. And so now we've got the full range of motion between those two. So if you've got tail left pushed all the way up, then as we introduce tail R, it combines with tail left, and now we've got the full range of motion of our fish swimming. Okay, so now that we've got those both in there, I'm going to close my shape editor. I'm going to save this once more. I'm going to save scene as, and I'm going to save this one as fish BS for blend shapes. And I'm going to take these two blend shapes now. Now I don't need these two anymore. The blend shapes are baked in, so I could delete these meshes, or if I wanted to, I could just pop them onto different layers. I'm just going to delete them for the sake of this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create an animation with this. So because I want these to go to to animate as this as my thing plays. So let's go into animation. All right, so now I've got my animation set up. And what I want to do is go to frame 1. And then on frame 1, I'm going to bring up my Windows, animation editors, shape editor again. So I've got my blend shapes up here. And what I want to do with my blend shapes here is I want to be animating this one. Now notice this is a number here, and if I right click on that, I can do a set key here, right? So what I can do is I can get Maya to remember that at frame 1, this should be the value, and then at some other frame, it can be some other value. So on frame 1, I want this to be 0. We're on frame 1. So I'll just come in here, set key. Then I'm going to go up to frame 20, move that up to 1, set key. Then up to frame 40 here, move that back to 0 again, set key again. Okay, so that's pretty much, we've set 3 keyframes in there, which is kind of nice. All right, so let's just close that down, and I will save the scene. Bit paranoid here. Okay, so now at this point, this whole thing is going to crash on me, so I'm going to continue that. At the end of my last video, you probably noticed that I experienced a crash, and that sort of thing does happen from time to time. It's usually got to do with the way your computer works with things in Maya. In this particular case, the issue for the crash was related to one of the preferences here. You'll see that if you go into your preferences in Maya and under animation, you'll see there's this evaluation here, and normally it's set to parallel. I think that's what was causing the issue. I've switched this back to DG, and if you're having similar crashes to the one I had, fixing that might save things up for you. Anyway, I've got it all working again now, so I just wanted to go through and quickly show you the last little bit of this kind of segment. So you'll see that now I've put in my keyframes. So if I select my fish here, you can see the keyframes that I put in, and these keys are showing me the blend shape positions. So this down here is the value in the blend shape slider of 0, and then that goes up to 1 here. So you can see that we can see that we've right at like 1 blend shape here with the tail swooshed all the way over to the fish's left, and then it goes all the way over to the right, and then all the way over to the left again. Now if I play that animation, I've got 200 frames in this animation, so if we sort of zoom out here and look at all 200 frames, let's just zoom out properly. Okay, you can see here that we're only doing these first 40 frames, right? So when we get past that point, the fish stops swimming. It'd be nice for the fish to keep swimming all the way through all 200 frames. One way we could do that would be to keep putting in more and more keyframes to keep getting that pattern moving through. But there's an even better way to do it. If you select that curve and go up to the curves menu here, you'll see these things pre-infinity and post-infinity. So pre-infinity is about what happens before the start of your curve, and post-infinity is about what happens after the end of your curve. And you can tell Maya that you want it to keep doing that animation. So if you go to post-infinity, you'll see there's one called cycle here. And if you select that, what will happen is that this curve will keep running. So you'll notice now if I go through this animation, it'll play through once. And when it gets to the end of that animation, it'll keep playing that animation like there are more animation curves there. So basically it just causes this animation to loop. This curve will just keep looping as if it keeps going. So now when I press play on my animation, you can see my fish will just start swimming and it will keep swimming the whole time. So what would be nice to do now would be to actually make my fish swim somewhere. So let's go back and just do a quick normal animation. We'll take that right back to the beginning there. And now what I'll do is grab my fish object and I'll move it back over here somewhere. Keyframe that with the S key and then move up to say frame 200 here. And we will move our fish over to here somewhere, keyframe that, and so now we've got our fish moving through space and at the same time wiggling its tail. So let's play that back and have a look at that. Okay, so there's my fish swimming along. Now I don't like the way it starts off slow and speeds up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at the animation curves on my fish, and this is the curve here, the translate X curve, which is the one I'm kind of interested in. This is the movement of the fish, and what I want to do with this curve is I'm just going to make this one go to linear so that it's moving at a constant speed. So let's have a look at how that looks. Alright, so that's okay. I'm not really sure if I like the way that that's swimming. It looks kind of like the fish is swimming a bit too, like its tail seems to be moving a bit faster. So what I might do is I might speed this animation up a bit. Probably the easiest way to speed it up, to speed this animation up, is to make this curve here, this line, like steeper. And to make that line steeper, what I need to do is I need to just basically make it start further and go, so basically go a lot longer, so I can start it a bit earlier and end it a bit later. But if I do that, my fish is going to move back here and end back over here further. So sometimes what I want to do is actually change the speed of the tail waggling animation. So if I have a look at this, I actually want this tail waggling to speed up a little bit. So what I'll do to speed up that tail waggling there is I'll go to my back to my blend shape for, this is my curve here. It looks like a different shape now just because of the zoom level we've got here. If I zoom, it goes back to this kind of thing. Right, so what I want to do is I want to take the same curve, but I want the whole curve to just be like a bit quicker. So I want the beginning, middle and end keyframes to be scaled in. So I can select the whole lot there, and I can come over here and I can click on this guy, and then I can just drag this in. And what I'll do is I'll drag it down so that those keyframes go into there. And now what we'll do is we'll rewind that and we'll play it. And you can see that the fish is waggling its tail a bit quicker, and now I'm a bit happy with that speed. I could try making it a bit faster still. Alright, we'll see how that goes. That's a bit too fast. So back out to here somewhere. Okay, maybe a little bit slower. There's no exact science to this. I mean, there probably isn't exact science to this, but it's nothing I'm going to play with here. I just want it to look about right. Okay, so there's my fish swimming along, looking pretty reasonable. And now I've got an animation which not only gives me some movement, but actually has some animation going on in there as well. So that's using lattice deforms and blend shapes to get the effect we want. Go ahead, do the same thing with your own models. You could try doing the same thing with a bird or a butterfly where its wings are flapping. You could